Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine someone who buys every single treasure map, studies every symbol, memorizes the geography of the promised land. But their boat never leaves the harbor. The wood rots beneath their feet. And the silent pain is this: they know the path intellectually, but an invisible force glues their feet to the dock. Reason cannot explain it. This is the pain Dr. Bruce Lipton understood so deeply. He said your conscious mind is the captain of the ship, shouting orders to change course. But your subconscious mind is the crew of 50 sailors who only know the old route. The ship does not turn 180 degrees because the captain shouts louder. It turns when the crew learns a new navigation. And the crew does not learn by reading more maps. They learn by feeling the sway of new waves, by smelling an unfamiliar ocean. And here is where Joe Dispenza's work touches this wound. You have become chemically addicted to the emotional signature of your own limitation. Your body, in its strange biological wisdom, prefers the familiar pain of the self that never changes over the unknown terror of the self that is transforming. Stopping your reading is not giving up. It is the first step in detoxing from the chemistry that has kept you small. So the question is not, do you want to change? The real question is, are you ready for the grief of the person you have only pretended to be? Because a life turned 180 degrees is not a superficial renovation. It is a silent demolition of everything that was never truly you. The silent ache of confusing information with evolution. Every new book, every video, every course gives a small hit of dopamine, the chemical reward that whispers, I am on the right path. Your brain gets satisfied with the promise of action, not action itself. And your soul, quietly exhausted, begins to distrust its own good intentions. The little discussed concept of the eternal student frequency. It is a vibration that quietly hums, I do not know enough yet. This magnetic field keeps you in orbit around seeking, not arriving. It responds to what you are, and you continue to be the one who searches, not the one who already is. The counterintuitive revelation, continuing to read might be a highly sophisticated form of resistance to change. It feels safer to write down a new habit than to live it. The pen and notebook become a barrier against the unknown. The fatal error is believing the problem is a lack of technique, when the real problem is an excess of emotional protection. A practical consequence for your daily life. While you read about how to release control, your nervous system is secretly controlling the act of reading itself. Your body does not distinguish intention from action. It records the repeated pattern: sit, read, feel temporarily good, do nothing, feel a silent guilt, read more. A symbolic metaphor. It is like a thirsty person who spends hours studying the hydraulics of a fountain, drawing the mechanism of the tap, but who never bends down to drink. Their swollen tongue is the silent proof that knowledge without embodiment becomes a slow poison to your own power. The hidden belief that change is possible without discomfort. You want the 180-degree result, but without the nausea of the turn. Every time a technique suggests feeling a difficult emotion, you reach for another book as an anesthetic. The great truth few dare to say. The pain is not the obstacle. The pain is the path itself. How dopamine sabotages your manifestation without you noticing. Your brain seeks the pleasure of the promise, reading about the ideal future, and flees the discomfort of the real present. The frequency of manifestation is not built in repeated fantasy. It is born in the capacity to hold a high intention while your physical body trembles with fear. The expectation shift that flips the game. Stopping your reading is not spiritual laziness. It is an act of brutal courage. It means facing the silence where there are no more excuses. It means sitting in the discomfort of, and now without a new chapter to distract me, what do I actually feel? A quiet exercise for the coming days. For 3 days with no new reading, simply observe your impulses. Every time your hand itches to pick up a book or open an article, do not judge. And ask yourself gently, what am I trying to avoid feeling right now? Whatever answer comes is not a mistake. It is your true starting point. An analogy from nature. A caterpillar does not read a manual on how to become a butterfly. If it could read, it would likely give up at the chapter about the complete dissolution of its body inside the chrysalis. Ancient wisdom lives in surrender to the process, not in intellectual control over it. The silent anguish of living on the shelf of life. You place yourself in a state of permanent waiting. When I finish this course, when I understand 100% of the concept, when I feel totally ready, then I will change. Safety, which felt like an embrace, reveals itself as a prison with invisible walls. The vibrational frequency of spiritual procrastination. Your energy field emits a subtle, constant signal. Universe, I still do not trust myself. And the universe, obeying the quantum law of the mirror, sends back more reasons not to trust. This is not punishment. It is the physics of consciousness responding to what you vibrate. The hardest and most liberating revelation. Reading about transformation without transforming is a silent act of violence against your own soul. Every unfulfilled promise, every unapplied insight, every one day I will, engraves more deeply the belief that you are someone who does not act. Self-sabotage is not an occasional error. It is an identity you are rehearsing every single day. A subtle sign that your frequency is misaligned. When knowledge no longer brings any chill, any sacred discomfort, you read and think, I already know this. That is the most dangerous moment of the journey. Knowing without doing is not wisdom, it is spiritual anesthesia. The metaphor of the eagle and the open cage. You have read all the instructions on how to fly. The cage door has been open for years, but you continue reading the instructions, memorizing the aerodynamics, while your wings atrophy from disuse. The fear of hitting the trees is smaller than the fear of discovering you never needed the cage at all. The silent disconnection between the mind that wants and the body that knows the truth. You can repeat affirmations of abundance with your mouth, but if your body contracts at the thought of money, if your breath becomes shallow, if your shoulders rise in defense, the body is telling the truth. And the body, full of cellular memories, commands the electromagnetic field. The little-known concept of cellular memory of repeated failure. Every time you read, felt inspired and did not act, that sequence was recorded in your cells as a program. Now the simple act of picking up a self-help book triggers the full program in your body. Inspiration followed by inaction. It is a biological loop that must be interrupted. The game changer that few teach. The 180-degree shift does not happen when you think differently. It happens when you feel differently. And feeling differently requires you to stop feeding the old feeling with the old habit. Stopping your reading is cutting the food supply to your old self. It is letting the hunger for real change finally appear. A 3-breath technique for heart-brain coherence. Before any action that fear tries to make you avoid, just stop. 3 conscious, slow breaths. With the first, simply feel the fear without labeling it as wrong. With the second, recognize it as an old program trying to protect you. With the third, move one single muscle, take one single step, do one single small thing that your new self would do. Then stop again, and repeat the next day. An analogy of a slow computer, you do not update an operating system by leaving it on with the same old programs running. You need to restart. Stopping your reading is the restart button. There will be a moment of black screen, of apparent emptiness, of end now. That frightening silence is not the end. It is the sacred space where the new code can finally be installed. The unconscious desire few confess, to have an honorable excuse for failure. As long as you are reading, you can dream of a perfect future. If you act and fail, the dream dies. The heaviest emotional trap is this. It is better to have the promise of one day than the risk of right now. This is the chain that binds sensitive souls the most. The frequency of radical trust, explained in a way you can feel. It is not the naive trust that everything will work out exactly as you planned. It is the deep trust that no matter what happens, you will be present to feel, to learn, to heal, and to adjust. This frequency is not obtained by reading. It is obtained by diving into your own life as a sacred and unknown territory. The deepest expectations shift in this script. Life only turns 180 degrees at the exact moment you stop trying to force it to turn. When you give up pushing the outcome and surrender to the process of becoming. The act of stopping reading about change and simply allowing change to happen through you is an act of absolute surrender and immense power. The myth of being totally ready that keeps you on the sidelines of your own life. Readiness is not a state you achieve after many books, it is a choice you make in every moment. In every moment you choose one small, uncomfortable action over one more comfortable chapter, you are ready. Readiness is the movement itself, not the preparation for movement. A symbolic story to carry in your heart. The diver who read every book about the ocean. He memorized the sea currents, learned the name of every fish, studied the pressure in the depths. But he will only know the truth of the cold water on his chest, the tightness in his neck, and the infinite blue when he jumps from the edge of the boat. The book does not lie, but the book does not dive either. The one who dives is you. The treasure map is in your hands. The map is perfect, it is complete, but the treasure is not inside the map. The treasure is in the living, unpredictable, real territory. It is the real beginning of the journey your soul has been asking for years. Remember Dr. Bruce Lipton's deepest teaching. Cellular reprogramming does not happen through the mechanical repetition of pretty words. It happens through repeated emotional experience that convinces the body of a new safety. You do not change the crew by showing a new map in the captain's cabin. You change the crew by taking the ship on a new route, by feeling the sway of new waves, by smelling the salt of an ocean never sailed before. And as Gregg Braden would remind us, the only thing separating you from the unified field of all possibilities is your ability to feel the emotion of the prayer already answered, as if it were now. And that emotion cannot be faked, rehearsed, or read about. It only emerges when the body, in its ancestral wisdom, experiences action aligned with the vision. Stopping the outward search is the silence where the real emotion can finally be heard. So here is the transformative question to carry inside you. What if the only page left to read was not in any book, but inside your own chest, waiting for you to stop searching so you could finally listen? What if the 180-degree life was not waiting for you to finish the next chapter, but to take the next step? You have read enough. You already know enough. What is missing is not in any next page, any next course, any next promise. What is missing is the sacred permission to be the one who finally closes the book, places a hand on the heart, feels the fear and the desire together, looks at the horizon, and takes the first step without guarantees, only with the naked truth of your own heart. The 180-degree life is not waiting for you to finish the chapter. It is calling you now, in this silence between the words you have just read.